Welcome to the American Business Video Training Series, a collection of highly informative videotapes designed to improve your position in the competitive world of business. This program is part of our management series and covers the important subject of writing a business plan.
Thanks for coming in today. There's something I wanted to talk to you about. The fact of the matter is, it's time to make some changes. We're eating up a lot of time dealing with small, everyday issues. And I feel like we're losing sight of the big picture.
Yeah, like my idea to expand our line of software. I still think it would work, Tom.
Mike, the problem isn't the idea, it's the money.
Okay, so why don't we sit down, take some time, and create a formal business plan?
Good idea.
I've got some right here.
Every company, whether it's run single-handedly or has a cast of thousands, needs to create a realistic business plan that it can follow. Why is this so important? Our three young entrepreneurs gave us two very good reasons.
And I feel like we're losing sight of the big picture.
First and foremost, a good business plan gives a company structure and direction. If it is created well, it can be easily modified to adapt to unpredictable, changing conditions. And it can be used as a guideline for budget and sales forecasts.
Mike, the problem isn't the idea, it's the money.
Second, a good business plan can attract investors and get you loans. If you have dreams of expanding or simply need some financing in order to get started, you'll probably need money from outside sources. So, now we know the whys. The big question is how. How do you create a business plan that will work effectively for your organization?
I have a couple sample plans here to help guide us through the process. Why don't we all take a look at these? Here you go, Laura. I'm just not quite sure where to start.
Where to start? The obvious answer is start at the beginning. Unfortunately, that's the wrong answer. The beginning of a business plan is the executive summary. You don't want to start there, since the executive summary is essentially a summation of all the elements in your plan. You need to develop all the elements first. Let's take a look at what those elements are. Every business plan is basically comprised of the following: an overview of the company. 2, an overview of the company's product or service. 3, an overview of the industry and the competition. 4, a marketing strategy. 5, a thorough description of the management team. And 6, a financial plan. This may seem like an enormous undertaking, and to some degree it is. If there are other officers in your company, be sure to delegate some of the work.
Well, Mike, it makes the most sense for you to write the parts about marketing strategy and industry and competition, since you're the marketing specialist.
Sounds fine to me, no problem here.
Right, and I'll take the financial plan portion. I'm the one with the good handle on our finance and operations.
Great. I should be able to do the other parts myself, and we can worry about the executive summary at the end. But why don't we meet separately and talk about the critical elements of each module?
Okay.
Great,
Sounds
good.
Good idea.
We'll get on it.
Yeah.
When you use a team to create your business plan, it serves other purposes as well. The document itself becomes a superb communication device as well as an effective team-building tool. If, however, you don't have anyone else to assist you in the process, don't despair. You can certainly accomplish it on your own and just as effectively. Before moving full steam into the development of your business plan, here are a couple of helpful tips. First, if you intend to use your business plan to attract investors, you need to know that it should be no longer than 40 pages. Financial officers want a clear, concise document. And if your company is limited on editing experience, plan to enlist a professional editor to pull your document together once the basic components are there, particularly if different people are writing different parts of the plan. An editor can give your document the fluidity and continuity it needs to be a success. Now let's take a look at each of the business plan components in detail.
An overview of the company. Wonder what I should include. I guess first I should make an outline.
The first portion of a business plan, besides the executive summary and the table of contents, is an overview of the company. That doesn't really tell you much, so let's go over the specific details. First, you need to include a history of the company. Here, you should highlight the nature of your company and how it got started. Talk about where the idea came from, the company's original mission, and how or if that mission has changed. If there is more than one principal in your organization, discuss the roles they played in the beginning and throughout the company's development. Next, talk about the organizational structure of the company today, who's in charge of what, and so on. Item number 2, then, is the structure of the company. If you're looking to attract investors, you may want to drop hints that demonstrate these people are qualified. Things like, Dr. James Smith will head our marketing department, or after 20 years' experience as a senior financial analyst for 3M, Mr. Jones is now our financial advisor. Remember, you'll have the opportunity to go into greater detail on your people later when you develop the management team portion of your plan. And again, if you are a one-person company, the same rules apply. Just scale them back a little.
What else?
The next question you need to answer is, what makes you stand out above the rest? Why should an investor choose to invest in your company instead of your competitors? You need to identify your company's distinctive advantage. We'll make that item 3. However, it's not enough to just sell yourself. An investor expects that. You need to be honest and explain where you feel your shortcomings are or will be in the future. Then you need to give some possible solutions to these weaknesses. This way, the investor recognizes that you've thought things through on varying levels, and you're not just looking at the positives. Item number 4, then, is a discussion of the company's strengths and weaknesses.
I think we're missing something critical. Maybe it's in the goals.
Last but not least, you need to discuss what you're planning to do with your company in the future. What are your long-term goals? These may include expansions, product enhancements, global opportunities, and so on. The important thing to remember is to keep these goals realistic. Follow the basic structure and strategies you intend to include in your plan. So far, we've covered all the basic elements in the company portion of your business plan, realizing, however, that every company has its own unique characteristics. Here are a couple of general rules to remember. First, the items we've highlighted do not necessarily have to fall in the order we've given you. If it makes more sense in your business plan to talk about your distinctive advantage last, for example, then do so. Second, if you have an item that doesn't seem to fall under any of these categories and you feel it is important to include, it probably is. Be sure to write it in. Before moving on, let's take a quick look at the important elements in the company portion of your business plan. They are the company's history, structure, distinctive advantage, strengths and weaknesses, and long-term goals. On to component 2.
Mike, I need your feedback on exactly what I should write about our product. Have you got a second?
Sure.
Okay. Here's what I've got so far.
Let's see. Okay. Easy-to-use accounting packages designed with a small company in mind. That's good.
The product or service component of your business plan first needs to include a detailed description of what it is your company is selling.
Don't forget to talk about our advantages over competition, though.
Mike's right. The next issue to address is the distinctive advantage of your product or service. This goes beyond the company's distinctive advantage as a whole into identifying specific features of your product or service that makes it better than your competitors. An example might be, due to upgraded production at a lower cost, we can afford to offer top quality for the lowest price on the market.
What about that paragraph on identifying the customer?
Yes, that's relevant. That works really well right there.
Finally, you need to identify your company's customers on every level. Pinpoint the groups of people who will buy your product, both directly and indirectly. In summary, then, here are the things this component should accomplish. The product or service portion of your business plan should: 1. Describe in detail exactly what it is your company sells. 2. Identify the distinctive advantages of your product or service. And 3. Identify exactly who you believe your customers are. Look at specific segments by product usage, industry group, income, location, etc.
While you're here, let me run this past you. I've been working on the industry and competition part.
Oh, good. You started by talking about industry size. That makes perfect sense.
When describing your industry, a good place to begin is with its present size and growth. You need to give a realistic, fairly objective view of what your industry is doing. Talk about the geographic scope of the industry, the range of products or services it offers, and its present growth rate. Maybe seasonal trends have an influence as well. Let's take a few steps back and discuss why a segment on the industry and competition should be included at all. If you are planning to present this document to investors, they're not about to run out and research the many facets and details of your industry. They expect you to have a pretty good handle on that, in which case you ought to be able to present them with a fairly accurate synopsis. When using your document internally as a directional tool, this segment is an ideal way to track the industry and double-check its movement with your own expectations. The appearance of objectivity in this part is important. An investor will recognize immediately whether or not you've grossly inflated your industry's significance and potential. Let's go back now to the other elements in the industry and competition component.
We need to mention the fact that current trends indicate continued growth for the next 8 years.
Okay.
You've talked about present industry size and growth. A logical next step is to give accurate projections on the short and long-term industry expectations, an industry forecast, if you will. If yours is a fairly new industry, it is probably at the early stages of its growth cycle and will expand considerably in the coming years. If, on the other hand, your industry has been around a while, the growth has leveled off and will probably remain steady or fall. Another issue under industry expectations is technological advancement. How will your industry's product or service change over time as new technologies are developed?
And then there's our competition. What do you think about what I've got there?
Oh, it looks like you've covered the basics, the software companies out there that might parallel ours, but there might be others we haven't considered. Let's think about this for a minute. It's
Thorough discussion of your competition is important. You need to address this from every possible angle. Think in both direct and indirect terms. Let's take an airline, for example. An airline's direct competitor is, of course, another airline. An indirect competitor, on the other hand, might be the train or the bus, a business that is competing for the same consumer dollars.
Our company falls on the lower end of the scale as far as cost goes. We need to describe where we really are, what our position is within the industry. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I think that's a point we need to make.
Finally, your competitive position should be addressed. You've covered the industry size and profile, and you've demonstrated that you have a handle on the economic forecast for the future. Now you need to explain where you stand amidst it all. You can get a little salesy here if you like. After all, in order for you to have started your business in the first place, you must have believed quite strongly that your competitive position has some distinct advantages. To wrap up then, under industry and competition, the important elements are a description of present industry size and growth, industry expectations, both short and long term, your company's competition, both direct and indirect, and your company's competitive position.
Hey, thanks for your input. I think I'll sit down and outline the next part before I get into the details.
All right. Hey, listen. Feel free to bounce any ideas off me if you need to.
Hey, thanks. Let's see. If I can identify the important issues of the marketing component.
Investors or financial officers want a clear picture of how you intend to make money with your product or service. They need to know that if they offer to lend you money, the deal for them is very low risk and the payback will be quick, painless, and profitable. So first, your marketing component needs to have a detailed description of your short-term plans. 3 basic items in this category are manufacturing, sales, and pricing. If yours is a product rather than a service, make sure to give a detailed account of your current manufacturing techniques. If you anticipate a change or a growth spurt within the next year or two, explain how you will adapt your manufacturing process to meet the new demands. If you're just starting a new company, explain how you intend to manufacture your product once you have financial backing. A description of your present sales techniques is also important. Do you have salespeople on staff, or do you sell to distributors who market your product on the retail circuit? Include the success rate of your sales technique and why you believe it is the right approach to selling your product or service. If you anticipate any modifications or additions to your selling methods in the near future, explain what those will be. Finally, under short-term marketing plans, describe what your pricing structure is and how it was derived. If high quality at a low price is a distinctive advantage you're trying to sell, you may want to include some of your competitors' prices as a comparison. If you think the pricing will change dramatically in coming months, explain why and how.
That covers our current marketing strategy. So now I need to talk about the future.
Item number 2 in your marketing component is your long-term strategy. You need to think through the marketing process completely on a 3, 5, or even 10-year scale. Everything here becomes somewhat speculative, but again, investors like to see that you're covering your bases, that you're planning for the future, and that you intend to be around for a long time. These long-term projections tend to get exaggerated, and while optimism is a plus, keep your numbers realistic. Overinflated forecasts will draw skepticism. Try to think up industry curveballs that could be thrown your way, and explain how you would adjust to accommodate any sudden changes. The same 3 elements found in your short-term plan apply for the long term. You need to discuss manufacturing, sales, and pricing. More specifically, how will your manufacturing change and expand as your company grows? How will your sales techniques be modified? And how will your pricing structure change with inflation, greater sales, and new technological advancements?
Okay, what am I forgetting?
One more important element in your marketing component is a simplified chart that shows your sales speculations. Lenders usually expect to see an illustration of how you believe your sales will increase in future years. This chart should span about 5 years and can be extracted directly from your financial plan, which we will cover later. Within the financial plan component, you'll also be able to explain how these numbers were derived. Let's take a final look at your marketing strategy component. It should include 1. A short-term plan highlighting issues in manufacturing, sales techniques, and pricing. 2. A long-term plan that also looks at manufacturing, sales techniques, and pricing, but from a future perspective. And finally, 3. A chart illustrating sales speculations over 5 years.
Oh, thanks for interrupting your schedules for this. I just wanted to go over the management team portion with you.
Sure. So it looks like you lifted most of this right off our biography sheets.
And added a few extra sales pitches here and there to show how terrific we are at what we do.
I didn't overdo it.
No, sounds great.
In your management team component, you need to give thorough biographies of the key players in your organization and identify the unique qualities they carry that make them particularly right for the job. If you are the only one running your company, that's okay. What you need to remember is that an investor will be looking for someone with proven experience in each of these three areas: marketing, finance and operations, and product or service expertise. If you have proven experience in all three, terrific. Most likely, however, you don't. A design engineer branching off to begin his own company may not be very versed in the financial aspects of his undertaking. A financial expert, on the other hand, probably doesn't know what goes into making the product. The most important point to stress here is know your weaknesses. If there is someone you trust to handle the finances, and that someone is a great deal more qualified than you are, hire him or her, even if it's only on a consulting or freelance basis. The bottom line is, a truly successful company is one that has balance in those three areas: marketing, finance and operations, and product or service expertise. The temptation is strong to add a fourth category here for companies that are a little larger. It could be titled the successful executive. This is a person that has proven experience in managing a team, making sure deadlines are met, hiring and firing, or working out customer conflicts, and taking the overall role of diplomat. However, the successful executive could easily be the same person that plays one or more of the other three roles we've mentioned.
I don't have any problem with this at all.
Nope, it looks fine to me. Well, I better get back to what I was doing.
Thanks again, Mike.
Hey, listen, before you go, Tom, would you look at this?
Sure.
Well, the problem is, we've got 40 million different spreadsheets that illustrate different things, and I'm having a hard time picking out the most important ones.
I see your point. We can't make the financial plan too overwhelming. We don't want to exclude any critical information either.
Your financial plan can be as easy or as complicated as you want to make it. If you're comfortable dealing with the numbers, you may want to create a whole series of spreadsheets illustrating your company's past, present, and future financial status. If, on the other hand, the numbers cause you nothing but pain and agony, you simply need to know the three basic elements you must include. They are: 1, an operating or income statement; 2, an illustration of your cash flow; and 3, a pro forma balance sheet. Why complete a financial plan at all? A financial plan quantifies all of the thinking and strategizing you've done thus far. It's a numerical summary of your business, and it can be used both internally and externally. Internally, it's the only way a company can measure the likelihood of its own survival. If a company is not able to make their business work on paper, the same company will most certainly fail in the real world. A financial plan is also a superb measuring device. Business can and should use their financial model as a tool of comparison when analyzing their current financial status. How did real sales compare with our speculations, and so on. They can adjust the model as time goes on and begin making more accurate predictions. The external uses of your financial plan are evident. If your company needs to borrow money, you'll need to demonstrate the company's viability by creating a realistic financial model that illustrates the company's potential for future success.
I guess the good news is we found the right software package in the beginning to satisfy all our basic needs. Look at all this detail.
Your financial plan can either be done by an outside accounting firm or written by you. There are hundreds of inexpensive accounting and spreadsheet software packages out there, many of which are excellent for planning purposes. You should plan on shopping around to find the accounting package that best suits your needs. The software seller will often install the program for you and then demonstrate how it works. Make sure you have access to someone who can answer your questions down the line as well.
We definitely need to put this statement into the plan.
Oh, I'll agree with you there. This gives the long-term picture of our financial expectations.
Now, going back to the key elements in your financial plan, the first thing you need is an operating or income statement. In simplest terms, this is a spreadsheet that illustrates your total revenue minus your total costs or expenses. The result is your net income. Part of this spreadsheet should be devoted to actual numbers illustrating past net income. This gives you a realistic starting point, a foundation on which to base the company's future potential. The rest of this statement is essentially a financial model illustrating your potential net income over a selected period of time, based on your own speculations or assumptions. It's important to stress that your financial plan is a model, not a guarantee. People are beginning to shy away from terms like forecast and projection, since these words tend to imply a degree of certainty. It is impossible to predict with absolute accuracy the future financial status of any company. Instead, terms like assumptions and speculations are being substituted. This does not mean, however, that you have license to over-exaggerate your numbers to the point of disbelief. The numbers should be kept as realistic as possible. A little optimism is always good, but overzealous inflation will raise eyebrows. It's very helpful to include the basis and assumptions of your income and expenses somewhere in the financial plan. This will also assist investors and lenders in performing their due diligence.
We should probably put this cash flow diagram in there, too. That's pretty critical to our operations.
Okay.
The next item in your financial plan is an illustration of your cash flow. To any lender, your receivables are considered your biggest asset. So you need to demonstrate through a cumulative cash flow diagram the relationship between your receivables and your payables. In essence, the diagram shows when your company actually collects payment versus when the expenditures occur. The cash flow spreadsheet is another document that you can do yourself. You need to take past balance sheets over an extended period of time and create a diagram that maps out when your sales were made and when those receivables were collected versus when your expenses were incurred and when they were paid. The average receivable for many businesses is 45 days. If, for example, you can demonstrate that your organization collects within 30 days, this speaks volumes to any lender.
Most of these others are just variations on the information we've already presented. I think we found the critical elements.
What about this? We had the accountant finish this one last week. I think it sums everything up for us.
Yeah, you're right. Lots of information there. Good choice.
Last but not least, you should include a pro forma balance sheet. This is a difficult document to create, and you'll probably need to enlist the services of a professional accountant. Your pro forma balance sheet is a balance sheet based on all the assumptions you've made up to this point. It's the net effect of your financial operating model. It covers your assets, both current and fixed, your liabilities, and your equity, the difference between your assets and liabilities. 3 documents are really all you need to demonstrate your company's financial status and potential. Let's quickly review them once again. First, your financial plan should include an income statement. Second, you'll need a cash flow diagram. And third, you should have a pro forma balance sheet.
I'm outlining the executive summary right now. Once that's done, I'll flesh it out and turn the whole thing over to you. You can pull all the components together into a finished document. Are you done writing your parts?
Yes, everything's complete, and I've just talked to Laura, and I believe she's done with hers too. We may just have ourselves a business plan.
Hope so. See you in a bit.
Okay, so the basic components of your business plan are complete. As we mentioned earlier, the final stage is to develop your executive summary. This will appear at the beginning of your plan and should highlight all the key points you've made in the body. Make sure your points are clear and concise. This section should be no longer than 2 to 5 pages. It should consist of summarized statements describing your business, your product or service, and your current status. It should have a mission statement that defines your short and long-term goals, and it should give a thorough explanation of your distinctive advantages. Why is your opportunity unique? Finally, you must include a synopsis of your financial needs, both immediate and long-term. These are the numbers investors or lenders will try to find right off the bat. They know you're coming to them for financial backing, so immediately they want to know how much.
Here it is, every paragraph. I just stopped at Laura's office and picked up her stuff too, so now you have it all.
I'm going to call my friend Sarah. She's the most qualified to do the editing on this, and she knows our business pretty well.
Okay. Have it to me first thing in the morning. What? Just kidding.
The time has come to pull the document together and make sure it appears organized and professional. As we mentioned earlier, hiring a professional editor is often a good idea. This person can take the elements you've written, work with them, give them continuity, and create effective transitions so that you end up with a fluid, organized package that can be used for years to come.
These samples should give me a good idea of how this should look.
Your document should also look polished. That doesn't mean you have to dash off to the printers and have it laid out and typeset professionally. Content will always outweigh appearance. It does mean that you ought to spend some time making it look organized and readable. Standard 8.5 by 11 paper is best. Add a nice quality cover of a heavier weight, and on it give the company's name and the nature of the document. A presentation folder is effective and easy to handle. The first page of the business plan will be a title page, similar to the cover, but on regular paper. It's followed by a table of contents. Since you've written your document by creating separate components, the table of contents just follows the key points highlighted in each. Another thing to consider is support material. A nice 8 by 10 photo of your product or a picture of your management team is good. Diagrams and graphics are also useful, particularly if your product or service lends itself to visual treatment. If you have a little more to spend, a video illustrating a product demonstration or a corporate overview is also impressive. For investors, seeing is often believing. Just remember that you don't need to go overboard. Finally, make sure you mark your plan confidential so that lenders and investors know that it is not for circulation by them.
And if he wants to have a banner, it's fine, as long as he lays out the
Yeah.
work.
Good morning. Morning. Here you go,
Hi,
Laura.
good morning. Thanks.
Mike was in charge of making our business plan look professional and organized, and he did a wonderful job. We've now got a formal plan for our efforts.
Wow, this really turned out beautifully. So, what's our next step?
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. We all agree that Mike's plan to expand the software line is a good one. So I've decided that it's time to actively start seeking financial backing.
Do you already have someone in mind?
As a matter of fact, I do. And we've got a meeting with them next week. I think we should all present the plan together. But we need to do some work first.
All right.
The package is pulled together beautifully, and now you have to face your potential investors in person. The number one key here is to know and understand every aspect of your business plan thoroughly. If you do, and if your plan is complete, you should be able to answer any questions that may arise.
This is who we're presenting to. Seacoast Financial.
Know who you're dealing with. Research your audience completely, so when you walk into the room, you're not surprised. Learn about them both on a personal and professional level. An oral presentation is particularly effective if you use your team to sell.
I feel comfortable presenting the financial plan.
The same people that developed individual business plan components are good candidates to present those portions to would-be investors. They know what the important issues are, probably more than anyone else. After all, they wrote the book. Make sure you rehearse ahead of time and work it out so that everyone has equal time. If you know precisely what you want to get across beforehand, you'll appear more confident, more enthusiastic, and more convincing. If you don't have the luxury of an oral presentation, you'll want to enclose a detailed cover letter when you mail your package. There are several important things to include in this letter. First, tell what it is and why you are sending it. Was it by request? Explain what your expectations are. Are you looking for an investor? And finally, explain what your next step will be. Will you call to set up a meeting?
I really think we're ready on this.
And the best part is we have a document we can consistently refer to and update as time goes on. It's a great way to measure our progress against our expectations.
Thanks for all your help. It feels wonderful to have it done.
You now have everything you need to venture forth and break new ground with your new or growing business. The tools you've gathered will certainly help you to achieve new goals and experience greater success. Good luck in your endeavors.